We are from Group 4. We will be presented our idea engineering about the characteristic comparison between quantitative and qualitative research. So there is four parts. The first is introduction, the second is theoretical framework, the third is discussion, and then the fourth is suggestion. So the first part will be read by me. So I will start from the abstract. Okay, in the abstract, in the subtitle of quantitative research, methods are one type of research whose specifications are systematic, planned, and clearly structured. And quantitative research studies that use a lot of numbers, ranging from data collection, interpretation of data, and the discovery of results. Likewise, conclusion will be better when viewed with pictures, table, graphs, or other views. According to Sugiono, quantitative research method can be interpreted as research methods based on the philosophy of positivism, used for evaluation of certain population or samples. Sampling techniques are generally carried out randomly, collecting data using research instrument, quantitative or statistical data analysis with the aim to test the hypotheses that have been set. Okay, for the first part is intro. Okay, in this engineering idea, we will discuss about comparison between qualitative and quantitative research. So why should we discuss about it? Is because so far there are still many students who don't understand the differences between the two types of research, quantitative and qualitative. Okay, in general, many think that quantitative research is about numbers, while qualitative research is about words or sentence. By this engineering idea, we hope that that the reader can increase their knowledge about the qualitative and the quantitative and their characteristic, especially, and then the differences or the comparison between the two research, between quantitative and qualitative. So when they did a research, they can get the good result that accordance with each research. Okay, for the second part will be read by Fitriana Sembiring.
It's me, Fitriana Sembiring. I will explain part of theoretical framework, quantitative and qualitative. According to Sugiono, quantitative research method can be interpreted as research method based on the philosophy of positivism, used for evaluation of certain populations or samples. Sampling techniques are generally carried out randomly, collecting data using research instruments, quantitative or statistical data analysis with the aim to test the hypotheses that have been set Sugiono 2012-7. According to Moleong, 1998, the source of qualitative research data is the display in the form of verbal or written words that are scrutinized by researchers, and objects that are observed in detail so that the meaning implied in documents or objects can be captured. Even the source of the data must be originals, but if the originals are difficult to obtain, then photocopies or imitation are not too much of a problem as long as you can obtain strong proof of status. Quantitative research methods are one type of research whose specifications are systematic, planned, and clearly structured. In quantitative research studies that use a lot of numbers range from data collection, interpretation of the data, and the discovery of results. Likewise, conclusion will be better when view with picture, table, graphs, or other view. This method is referred to as the scientific method because this method is made the scientific principles of concrete, empirical, objective, measurable, rational, and systematic. This method is also called the discovery method because with this method can be found and develop a variety of new science and technology. This method is called quantitative method because the research data in the form of numbers and analysis using statistics. Quantitative research is a study that is positioned as value free. In other words, quantitative research is very strict in applying the principles of objectively. The objectively is obtained among others through the use of instruments that have been tested for validity and reliability. And about qualitative research method is a new method because of its recent popularity. This method is also called post-positivistic because it is based on the philosophy of post-positivism, as well as an artistic method because the research process is more artistic, and it's called interpretive method because the research results are more concerned with interpretation of data found in the field. Quantitative research method can be interpreted as a research method used to examine a particular population or samples. Data collection using research instruments. Quantitative or statistical data analysis with the aim to test the hypothesis that has been set. Keir and Miller, 1986, defined qualitative method as certain traditions in social science that fundamentally depend on observing humans in their own domain and dealing with these people in their language and terminology. Meanwhile, according to Bogdan and Taylor, 1975, in the book Moleong 20 and 423, put forward a qualitative method as a research procedure that produces descriptive data in the form of words or oral from people and behaviors that can be observed. In Nasution, 1988 to 23, the terms qualitative research originated initially from qualitative observation as opposed to quantitative observation. Then they defined the qualitative methodology is a particular tradition in the science of social knowledge which is fundamental, defined it on observing humans in their own relationship and dealing with these people in their language and in their terms. According to Bogdan and Klein, qualitative research is one of the procedures that produce descriptive data in the form of speech or writing and attitudes of the people observed. 1975. According to Strauss and Corbin, qualitative research is a type of research that produces findings that cannot be obtained using statistical procedures or other ways of quantifications. According to David Williams, qualitative research is the collection of data in a natural setting using scientific methods and carried out by people or researchers who are naturally interested. 1997.
Now, let's move to the discussion part. So, in doing research, a lot of people think that quantitative research and qualitative research are the same, but they are actually not the same. There are a lot of differences that we can discuss related to these two kinds of researches. But before we discuss about the differences, we need to know why is it important for us to know the type of research before doing a research itself. So as you can see in the slide beside here, it is really important for us to be able to know what kind of research that we are doing. Why? Because in doing a research, the type of research you choose is really will affect the result at the end. So if you choose one type of research, it will affect so many things in the process, such as the questions you ask. If you're doing an interview, the question you ask for a respondent will be different based on the type of research that you've done. And then, this type of research will also affect the other aspects in the process, such as the method you choose, and then also the statistic analysis, and then the inferences made while you're doing this research. So because of that, it's really important for us to know what type of research that we use. And then we need to discuss now what are the differences, what are the advantages and disadvantages. So let's move to the disadvantages and advantages of qualitative research. So the first one, as you can see here, in qualitative research, it is really useful for you if you are doing the research. It is not really will help you in other kind of numbering, but it definitely will be useful during the early stages of the study. And then when the researchers maybe ensure what exactly is the data got. So if you use another type of research, it will make you doubt the result that you got. But with this type of research, that is qualitative research, it will ensure you what type of or what kind of result that you get. And then in this type of research, that is qualitative research, it does not need a strict design plan. So this means that you can just do or simply do make some rules, but it's not too strict. So it will never make the researchers become stressed like other type of research. And then this type of research also will gain more detailed and rich data. So with using this type of research, you will get more detailed data for your research. And then the advantages is looks at context and social meaning and how it affects individuals. So as we know, in qualitative research, it is more focused on what the tragedy that happens in social. So this is really important for us to know that this type of research will really give us advantages such as this one. Okay, now let's move to the disadvantages. The disadvantages of qualitative research, the first one is that the researchers is heavily involved in the process. So if you are using the qualitative research technique, you have to be ready to be involved in the research along the way. So you need more time, you need so long time to be applied or to be involved in this type of research. Okay, and then let's move to this one. The researchers can interpret the researchers according to his or her own based view. So in this type of research, one of the disadvantages is that if there is a researchers who doing a research, then the data that they got from the research technique will be somehow can be biased, because it's a human opinion, it's a human view, so it's not really accurate. Because if you read a research from a research, it might be the point of view of someone that done that research like that. Okay, and then the last but not least is that the very time consuming, because that, like has been told before, that the researchers is heavily involved in this research, so of course it will take a very long time. Even here mentioned that for months or even years. So it is really logical for us to know that if you want to do a qualitative research, you have to be able to to sacrifice your time more and more, because this type of research really need your attention and time and also energy, of course. Alright, let's move to the next one. We have the advantages and disadvantages of quantitative research. Alright, so the first advantage is that this type of research will allow the researchers to measure and analyze data. So here, in this type of research, there are a lot of keywords, but the first one is analyze the data. So while you're doing this research, you will get a lot of data, right? And then you are the one, as the researchers, need to analyze the data and to measure it itself. And then the next one is that the relationship between an independent and dependent variable is studied in detail. So if you want to study your variables of the research more detailedly, better you use this kind of research. And then the next one is that used to test hypotheses in experiment because of its ability to measure data using statistics. So as mentioned before, that it will use data and more measurement. So it is really significant if you use this kind of research to test hypotheses, because in the process it will use more data and will be analyzed by statistics, so it is more accurate. And then as before, it also has the disadvantages of the quantitative research. So the disadvantage, the first one, is that the context of the study or experiment is ignored, unlike the qualitative research. And then the next one does not study things in a natural setting or discuss the meaning things have for different people as qualitative research does. So this is the one thing that is so different from the qualitative research, because the qualitative research study the social impact of the variable that you research, but this one is not. And then the next one is that in some cases a large sample of the population must be studied. Okay, the larger the sample of people researched, the more statistically accurate the result.
Quantitative method and the quasi-experimental approach. In the early decides of evaluation and social science research, a quantitative, quasi-experimental design predominated, and many practitioners still associate good evaluation practice with these methods, drawing its basic statistical and experimentation technique from agricultural research. This approach determines a program effectiveness through rigorous comparison of a treatment group, thus receiving program service, control group, or thus not receiving service by pattern. The sample or standard survey is the most common data collection instrument. Experimental design does over option that differ in the degree of required in the selection and composition of this group. Both its scientific features include the following. It is deductive, in that specific research hypothesis and non-variables are specified in advice of data collections. Respondents, or both treatment and control group, are selected according to random sampling method that enable results to be generalized to the wider population targeted by the evaluation. For example, all program clients, results are quantified and analyzed using tests of statistical significance that permits comparison of treatment and control group, ideally with pre- and post-test measures. These features provide the findings with a high degree of credibility for many decision makers. The weakness of the approach is the difficulty of establishing control conditions in the real world and its insensitivity to complexity and subtleties in human interaction by Siregar and Davis. Okay, next is qualitative versus quantitative research. In the qualitative research, the types of data collected is words, image, or object, and in the quantitative research is numbers and statistics. In the qualitative research, the form of data collected is qualitative data such as open-ended response, interview, participants, observation, file notes, and reflection, and in the quantitative research is quantitative data based on precise measurement using structure and validate data collection instruments. In the qualitative research, the types of data analysis is identify patterns, features, themes, and in the quantitative research is identify statistical relationship. In the qualitative research, the objectivity and subjectivity is subjectivity is expected, and in the quantitative research is objectivity is critical. In the qualitative research, the role of researchers is researchers and their business may be known to participants in the study, and participants' characteristics may be known to the researchers, and in the quantitative research is researchers and their business are not known to participants in the study, and participant characteristics are deliberately hidden from the researchers' double-blind studies. In the qualitative research, the result is to particular or specialized findings that is less generalizable, and in the quantitative research is to generalizable findings that can be applied to their population. In the quantitative research, the scientific method is to exploratory or bottom-up. The researchers generate a new hypothesis and theory from data collected, and in the quantitative research is to confirmatory or top-down. The researchers test the hypothesis and theory with the data. In the qualitative research, the final reports, narrative reports with contextual description and direct quotation from research participants, while in the quantitative research, statistical reports with correlation, comparison of means, and statistical significance of findings.
Hi, I'm Fauziah Aquila Purba, and I want to explain about our suggestion, the engineering idea that is comparison between qualitative and quantitative research. And as long as you can see about our slide, the topic about our suggestion, this comparison is not just based knowledge, because after understanding it, the reader can be surely know the differences between all of them, and that qualitative research is characterized by the collection and analysis of the textual data. According Old et al. 2005, textual data it's mean like survey, interview, focus groups, conversational analysis, observation, and ethnography. And then the research question can be answered by qualitative studies are questions such as what is occurring, why does something occur, how does one phenomenon affect another, while number can be used to summarize qualitative data. Answering this question generally requires research and etc. And then much of engineering research seeks to identify how outcomes it's mean like a mechanical failure are determined by the reaching possible cause to a discrete set of indicators or variables. And then qualitative methods are a good fit for deductive approach in which a theory or hypothesis the purpose statement. So, and then according according Querel 2002 of the narrowly defined research question. And then about according Querel's, also the hypothesis being tested and the pricing of the research question grow for how data will be collected. It's really like a locally development survey, commercial instrument, or final course grade, and as well as the method basically of statistical analysis used to examine the data. And the last, the purpose quantitative studies is for the researcher to project his or her findings onto the larger population through an objective process. And the data collected often through survey administered to a sample or subset of the entire population, and conclusions are derived from data collected and measures of statistical analysis, and that is according from Crowell 2002 and Thorn and Gissen 2002. And that's all about our suggestion, and then see you, bye bye.